Hi, everyone. Welcome to another off the map, unscaled conversation. And today we're heading deep into the Andes to explore how the Incas viewed the sky. We're going to talk about the sun tower at Machu Picchu and how it aligns with the solstices, Cusco's ancient layout, and how the Incas found constellations in the dark of the Milky Way. It's fascinating stuff. We're going to be weaving history, astronomy, and a little bit of mythology all under the same sky in the same conversation. And to help us make sense of it all, we have a very special guest. Andrés Adasme is a Chilean-born archaeoastronomer, architect, and experienced designer who has lived in Cusco for over 2 decades. With a deep expertise in ancient cultures and their astronomical practices, Andrés has been a leading voice in Andean archaeoastronomy since 1996. He played a key role in designing and constructing Mountain Lodges of Peru's iconic trekking route lodges, blending ancient wisdom with modern design. As the explorations, development, and experiences designer at Mountain Lodges of Peru, he continues to craft immersive travel experiences that celebrate cultural heritage, sustainability, and the profound legacy of the Andes. Andrés, thank you so much. To start us off, before we even get to Machu Picchu itself, can you help explain what archaeoastronomy actually means and how it helps us really kind of understand ancient Andean culture?
Yes, of course. I mean, in simple words, archaeoastronomy is astronomical archaeology. So it's the understanding of the ancient astronomers and how they put together their observations into different levels, such as architecture, textile, ceramic, symbology, right, mythology, and so on. So in my perspective, I've been studying the megalithic temples, not only in Cusco, so also in some other areas in the planet in regards of the sky.
For travelers like me, unfortunately, I have only seen Machu Picchu in photos. And we said at the top of this, we're going to talk about something called the Sun Tower. What exactly is the Sun Tower, and how does it kind of fit into the larger layout of the site of Machu Picchu?
Well, first of all, the Sun Tower, it's a very specific construction in between other, temples and constructions in Machu Picchu. So the Sun Tower, it's, as I said, it's like a cog of time. That means that it's blending the architecture in terms of the alignment of how it's this construction designed to fit and to connect to, in this case, the sun, right? Because when you study astronomy, ancient astronomers are not only looking to the sun, right? Because this is just the first, arm in this clock, right? And then you need to realize that it's just the starting of understanding the astronomy. Then you have the night, that is a more complex, gear. So everything is working together. So for me, the Sun Tower of Machu Picchu is a cog of time that connects an ancient sky with those constructions whenever it was built.
I don't think it's anything new to say that there's long been talk about how the Incas aligned their temples and their monuments with the movements of the sun, and how they charted the stars and things of that nature. But going a little bit deeper, I guess, with the Sun Tower and I guess some of the other buildings there at Machu Picchu, how do these things really reflect that relationship, and what does it reveal about their understanding of the sky from an ancient perspective?
Something very, very important that made me realize, in the very beginning when I started my studies, that is like 30 years ago, is that the architecture is reflecting an ancient sky. Okay, so it's a heaven's mirror. So that means that the architecture, the temples, the cities, and the full, Andean civilization aligned their constructions in regards of the sky. And when you understand that, of course, the movement of the sky, the movement of Earth, because of the axis, the axis is wobbling, it's moving, it's not steady. So that means that you can measure that, movement that is a slow cycle of 25,000 years, right? So you can understand that the temples are in regards of an ancient sky, right? So some of them are marking, our time. And that means that the Incas are only 500 years, old ago, right? They disappeared 500 years ago, I mean, as a society, as a civilization. But they left that footprint that is a line of those times. And I would say that the Sun Tower of Machu Picchu, it was designed and built by the Incas in regards of the sunrise of winter solstice and summer solstice, right? So they are making that footprint from that time, and I mean 500 years ago.
From an engineering perspective, how did the Incas really kind of achieve that kind of precision without modern instruments? If this show was airing on late night History Channel, they would say aliens.
Well, look, first of all, I think it's observation, right? And as you said, it's a legacy that started maybe thousands of years ago of observing this night sky and the sun rising and sun setting. So when we think, as today, that we need technology, we have everything in our hand, right? I mean, our phone, right? We have everything there. But in the past, we need to observe. So, for example, Jeremy, if I ask you, how is the moon phase today? Can you tell me? Are you aware of that?
Absolutely not.
It's gonna be full soon, right? In a couple of days, we're gonna have a full moon. So this is about observing where we are. Where are we standing? And which are the references that are going to be part of my architecture, my constructions, in terms to align and to measure time. So I totally believe that this is a matter of observation, right? And of course, a legacy that is coming from all the civilizations, because the Incas, I don't know if you know, but the Incas is only one of many civilizations that came before, and the Incas is just the last that put together, like massive information coming from way before it, Caral, Chanca, Chanchan, Chimu, Chachapoya, Nazca, Paracas, Wari, and so on, right? So it's an information that is coming from the past, right? So it's a matter of just putting together information, and you understand if you're an astronomer and you talk one astronomer from Cusco and one astronomer from Santiago de Chile, it's a big difference in latitude, is that they understood that the sky there is not exactly the sky here, right? So, I mean, it's just a matter, of observing and putting together the ideas and connecting and studying.
Well, you mentioned just a little while ago that your journey down this road started about 30 years ago. But really, what inspired this? What inspired the whole trek into astronomy, and then you started blending that with travel, and now you lead these archaeological, like, astronomy journeys through Machu Picchu. Give us a little bit of your background and what set you down this path.
Well, everything moves so organically because, when I was studying architecture at the end of the 90s, I went into a trip to Cusco. And well, I was at that time I was studying the Egyptians, right? Like reading books and studying and putting, those, because it's a lot of archaeoastronomers, studying Egypt. So when I went to Cusco, it just, captured my attention that, first of all, nothing about archaeoastronomy in Cusco, just, a few information about it, even though that I, dive in the libraries and everywhere in Cusco. Uh, There, in 1999, I decided that at some point I need to move to Cusco and start my own research, right, with a different perspective. So my curiosity and my passion moving took me to Cusco in 2003. And there I started very organically, just visiting the sites, going every sunrise to Sacsayhuamán, that is these huge megalithic structures, part of the ancient design of Cusco, the city of Cusco. So it was observing. observation and, of course, reading and studying other authors that give me some clues about, mythology, astronomy, architecture, and so on. So everything just came from one, step to the other. So being in Cusco, I at some point started, doing lectures that I was invited, here and there. And then they asked me to be a tour leader and guide, groups to Sacsayhuamán, Machu Picchu, and other sites. And at some point I said, wow, I love this. I love being with people. I love talking about what I love. And I love the feedback, because when I put my ideas into words or I'm writing and sketching, it's where the information is downloaded. You know what I mean? That I'm just realized because of that perseverance of being there and observing and being, very pointy and questioning everything. Because when I heard, oh, this huge, massive stone of 100 tons was moved with people with ropes, I said, no, come on, it's impossible. Come on, give me a break, So I started from the scratch, like nothing was done about it, and I put my new ideas together. And that's why I came into new concepts, new observations, where everybody said, no, this is set. Cusco is a Puma. I said, no, come on, why? Why? Where is it? Show me. So I started from the scratch. And I put that in my mind. And with that, curiosity is that I moved into the world of tourism, right? And at some point, I founded my own company. And then I moved into Mountain Lodges of Peru, that they called me to be the product developer, because I knew very well an area that I work, that I study, to put together a new itinerary for this company.
So let's talk for just a moment here about the beautiful mountain lodges of Peru, because like you said, you are the explorations and development and experience designer there. What is your hand at the mountain lodges of Peru, and really how does the mountain lodges of Peru like set itself apart from other places? Because I'm sure there's tons of places that are beautiful as well that you can stay at in Peru, but how does it really set itself apart from everyone else in that ecosystem?
Well, that's a really good question, because Mountain Lodges of Peru started in the very beginning. That's mean 20 years ago. And by the way, I work with a group of architects that designed and built the first 4 lodges of the company that are in a Inca trail surrounded the Salcantay mountain, a huge mountain that goes all the way down to Machu Picchu, right? So that route, it's very secluded, and we are the only company that offer lodge, a lodge to lodge experience. The rest is camping, and it's a shorter way. But my expertise took me into a new area where the company were built new lodges, right? That's the Lares Valley. The Valley, it's above the popular Sacred Valley of the Incas, in between the Amazon jungle and the Sacred Valley, right? So it's a massive area of 2,000 square kilometer squares, right? It's huge, it's massive. So the idea of Mountain Lodges of Peru starting as a trekking company, then change into a more soft adventure, because also the adventurers, people traveling around the planet shift and change, the way that they perceive, adventure. So nowadays, that we have soft adventure to hard adventure, and my work, 10 years ago when I arrived to Mountain Lodges of Peru, is that they offer only one route with a lodge-to-lodge trekking, right? So everybody knew Mountain Lodges of Peru as a trekking company. So it was a massive work to put the new ideas that we are not only doing trekking, because I started offering and designing soft adventure, like very cultural ones, like the archaeoastronomy trip, and some others in between, the trekking. In fact, I did a new one that is called the Black Diamond Trek. It's 100 kilometers, 75 miles of trekking from Cusco, the main square, to Machu Picchu, right? So all in between, we offer now, and we move aside of only being a trekking company, and we are an adventure company from soft to hard adventure, right? So we offer secluded communities visits. We go to places that nobody else can do, because if you're based in the Sacred Valley, the range of the possibilities to visit and come back to the lodge, it's about 2 hours and a half in and 2 hours and a half back, right? So that means that because we are in secluded areas, we can explore places that nobody else can reach, right? So that allows me to start again, creativity and putting together new itineraries, because all our programs are a lodge to lodge experience from Cusco to Machu Picchu and come back.
I want to step back for a second because you mentioned the old idea that Cusco was shaped like a puma, and I think most people have heard this if they've done any kind of research on the area or whatever. But you also suggest something more complex. I mean, in fact, you mentioned questioning that from the beginning, but I think you actually put into thought that it actually represents three sacred animals: the serpent, the puma, and the condor. Can you explain what those animals symbolize in the Inca world and why you feel that maybe Cusco is a little bit more than just the puma?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I questioned from the beginning, because every book, every guide mentioned that Cusco was designed with the shape of a puma. In fact, it's like the profile of the Sphinx, in Giza Plateau. If you sit, next to the Sphinx, and you see it, from one side, you will see the profile of a lion, correct? So in this case, every book, every chronicle mentioned, because the Incas told to the Spaniards that Cusco was designed as a puma. So I questioned it. I said, okay, where is that, right? How they did it? And in fact, there is, a map made back in the 1800s by Esquire, an American that visited Machu Picchu and Cusco at that time, and she did a really good, master plan of the city. So when I saw that master plan and they said, this is the profile of the puma, I look at it, I said, come on, is that a puma? For me, it's like a lizard. It has like a really strange long neck and, like a big nose. I mean, that's not a cat. A puma is a feline, right? With a short nose and not a long neck and so on. So I said, I mean, if it's really a puma, this is not the shape, right? This is not exactly what it is. So I started, working on my AutoCAD, my in the architectonical softwares, designing and looking also the correlation of the different temples that today are cathedrals and churches. And it happens that they are perfectly aligned in two axes. Okay, so we have like 6 temples in one axis, perfectly aligned, and in the opposite direction, 5 temples. So it's a total of 11. Even though that in downtown you can find like 20 churches, but the main ones are perfectly aligned, making an X of 2 axes. So going deeper into my exploration, and I mean, it maybe took 8 years to realize at some point, and I said, well, look, if I put together now the idea that these temples are part of the main structures and the axes are also pointing the winter solstice and here and there, what else I can find, in this design? Because it's not just as simple as putting, temples here and there and pointing. It's a very complex, connection in between what they are designing. So at some point, I have to say, Jeremy, that just the information came down to my computer and I understood that the Puma was perfectly designed in an area of the ancient, town. And that shape has also another area, in the back of this Puma that I recognize. And that area was a long and thin. So this looked like a serpent. And it happens that in that area is where you can find many temples that has carvings of serpents in the walls. So I said, I mean, this is not a coincidence. First of all, the location of the temples, just uh, matches with different zones of the puma. Like the heart is in the chest of this puma, And in the head is another main temple that is called Manco Cápac, the first Inca, the founder of the Inca culture, coming from Titicaca. And I just realized, and then there is another, the third structure, that is called the head of the Puma, right? In terms of the ancient way of seeing the whole Puma, that is Sacsayhuamán. It's in the upper part of the city. It's a megalithic, a massive temple, Sacsayhuamán. And that temple, the word Huamán, it means a falcon. So it's not saying Uma Puma, that in Quechua will mean the Puma's head. It's making reference of a bird, right? A flying bird. So I said, okay, so Cusco, if it's representing a puma, a serpent, and a bird, like a falcon or a condor, it's making reference of the whole cosmovision of the Andean people, which has three levels. Hanan Pacha, the above, okay, the sky, and it's represented by a flying condor. Here, where we are, and today, that is represented by a puma, and it's called Kai Pacha, and then the underground, protected by a serpent, that is called the Ukupacha, right? The underworld. So three animals for the three worlds, right? So I said, Cusco, it's in Quechua, Cosco. So when the Spaniards arrived, they just changed it. And instead of Cosco with an S, they put a feet, right? Cusco, right? But it's not. It's Cusco. It's Cosco, which is a navel. So if it's Cusco, the navel of the Andean Empire, it should be where the three levels are blending, right? Are all merged into one big city, which is the center where all the trails and roads are coming from, right? So I said, yeah, I mean, this is not just a Puma. This city is representing the three levels of their cosmovision. And here's where everything is happening. They're putting down the stars. They're having the city made of stone. And also there is a myth that is not a myth anymore. There is a tunnel that connects the main temples of the city in an underground tunnel that is half natural and carved, right? So that's the Ukupacha, right? So it makes a lot of sense to me, and I've been, talking about this for a couple of years already. Some archaeologists says, no, man, you're crazy, what are you saying? And someone said, man, you're so right, right? Because it's just a new way of seeing the city, which is not only a Puma.
And then there's this incredible idea of dark constellations. Uh, Most people know in Western like astronomy, we trace the stars, right? We had the Little Dipper and the bears and all of that stuff. But the Incas kind of looked up there at the shadows that were in the Milky Way, like the famed Llama in the sky. How did those, I guess, dark constellations shape their rituals or even more? And how much do we know about that?
Well, as you said, it was just a different way of observing the sky, right? Because in the northern nights, right, you have a different and completely, a different perspective of how you see, first of all, the Milky Way, right? The northern sky nights faces to the 1/3 in outer space of the Milky Way, right? So it's not too brightful as we can see it in the southern hemisphere because we face to the center of the galaxy, right? So the center of the galaxy is where Scorpio, the occidental, constellation of Scorpio, is sitting down. So Milky Way, the Milky Way, it's is the main reference of the night sky. And the Milky Way being so brightful, I mean, if you have the option to be there in Cusco or in Titicaca, in those dark nights, you practically can touch the Milky Way. And you see, as you mentioned, that there are like dark clouds in the Milky Way, right? So those dark clouds were named as animals. And in fact, the idea of having, naming portions of the Milky Way is just to understand as a reference, right? Because if you said the Condor or the Llama, right? You know that it's in a specific zone of the Milky Way, and you can see it sometimes during winter and backwards in summer. Okay, so the Milky Way seems to look backwards, because of the movement of Earth. So those references from the sky were taken as also the references to design the ancient sites. So Ollantaytambo is like a llama, Machu Picchu is like a condor, Pisac in the opposite side of the Sacred Valley is also like a condor, Cusco is like three animals, and so on, right? So those references are to match what is above to what is here, right? And when you make that mirror is when I said that if I put the idea that my hand is the design of Cusco today, the sky is like this, right? So I use a software that is called Stellarium that takes in consideration the wobbling of the axis. And I said, okay, show me the sky 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. I understood that the night sky is matching the city 10,000 BC. Okay, so and today is not aligned, right? So it's a matter of understanding the night after, being, observing the sun. The sun is just the beginning, and the night is the main reference to measure these huge cycles. Right? So that's why the Milky Way is the main reference in the south. And also, not only the dark constellations are through the Milky Way, also the Southern Cross is right there, like sitting over, the Milky Way, which is one of the main references for the southern, travelers, the sailors, it's like the northern star in the north, in the south is the Southern Cross, right? It's also part of the Milky Way, right? So all the main references from the night are in the Milky Way.
Is there a moment? Is there a sunrise, an alignment, or something you've discovered or witnessed that still to this day kind of gives you goosebumps that you love to share with people and just maybe explain in your own way how this is important to you?
Absolutely. Well, I have to say that part of my research took me to a place that it's known, in Ollantaytambo. This is a site in the Sacred Valley, and it's called the Pyramid of Pakaritampu. Okay, Pyramid of Pakaritampu. So probably 5% of people who visit Cusco, or maybe less, it's aware of the Pyramid of Pakaritampu, which is a huge structure that is designed in the terraces, the farming terraces of the whole town of Ollantaytambo. So to observe this pyramid, okay, you cannot see it, from the land. You need to move away. And that means you need to follow a trail for about an hour uphill. And from that perspective, you look down, okay, to the old town of Ollantaytambo and the beautiful terraces. And you realize there is a two-dimension, sketch of a topless, pyramid that is look like scale with a like a Mexican pyramid. Okay, then this is weird because of course in the area you're not gonna find pyramids. You can find some pyramids in Peru, but in the coast, like Incas. Probably Caral is 4,000 years before Christ, so it's also kind of pyramidal shapes, So this pyramid is designed over the terraces of Ollantaytambo, and the main lines, that make the shapes, the two different shapes of this pyramid, it's aligned with winter solstice and the equinoxes. So I've been there, many times observing the sun rising, and this is at 6:50 a.m. on June 21st, when the first rays of the sun, are starting to appear in between the mountains and making, scratching the land, in this area of Ollantaytambo. So it's incredibly beautiful when this sun is coming out, because the mountains make shadows, in the valley, and only one ray of light is coming out in between, and it's marking one specific spot in this pyramid, which is a door. Okay, a door. That this door is also designed as a triple-jamb, triple frame. That means that this is an important door. Okay, if you go to Cusco soon, I wish, that one door with one frame is just a regular door to your house. To two frames, okay, of a door, it means that it's more important. Probably you cannot get with your animal inside the temple. But it has a triple door, a triple-jamb, okay? Only amautas or masters can come in, right? So these first rays of light are reaching this triple-jamb door, this huge pyramid traced over the terraces, right? Marking the beginning of the year, because in the Andes, the beginning of the year is on June 21st, right? So when you are there, realizing that they design a huge, pyramid that you can see it as a 3D model from this angle that I mentioned above in the hill, looking down, that is not flat anymore. Because of the angle, you see that it has two faces, and it happens that it looks like a 3D pyramid, which is not, but it looks like. And the sun is coming in between the mountains and reaching that spot. Man, goosebumps are all my body, right? And that happens every winter solstice, right? So it's the most beautiful moment that I've been witnessing, in the area. And it's something that I've been studying, because also it's not aligned perfectly to the sunrise, because it was designed thousands of years before, when the angle of the axis of the Earth has another inclination, right? So it's not matching today. It matched thousands of years ago. It's incredibly beautiful.